Another painting tutorial, just getting everything adjusted. I had changed the height for yesterday's painting due to it being a portrait orientation for the paper as opposed to just the standard landscape. So I had to kind of adjust things. So yeah, we'll see. I'm putting everything back in place. So just a heads up, if you notice any skips in the numbers of the paintings and all that, once in a while, and there'll be a skip there because the painting will be kind of an exclusive for the Patreon group and all that. So that might be just a skip in the numbering and whatnot. Let's see. While I clean up the palette, I have this picture that I'm just going to talk about and kind of think about today's or this morning's issue. Let's see. So I took this photo yesterday. Yesterday was St. Patrick's Day, and there is an elderly gentleman in town that is not originally from around here. He, he's a war veteran and all that, and he doesn't really have the biggest support system in the area because he just doesn't really know that many people. And so I met him and talked to him, and really cool guy, and we've become friends. He, being an elderly gentleman and being a veteran, he needed rides to the doctor and all that, and I was able to find him some rides. Apparently, I guess the VA is selective with what city the doctor is allowed to be in for them to go in, or how they accept it, or maybe they only have offices in certain areas. I'm not sure. Able to help him out with that, and take him food shopping and whatnot. Anyway, so he's Irish, and last week he invited me over for an adult beverage for St. Patrick's Day. He said, just come over on the 17th, and it took a moment to click, with everything else that's going on, what was the 17th, St. Patrick's Day. I was like, yeah, sure. So we sat outside, no handshaking, anything like that, because he's obviously one of the people that are in the at-risk group, unfortunately, and we talked a lot about that. But it was really nice. We hung out. He had some Irish music playing in the background and whatnot, and we just talked, and it was good just to mellow out. And I know that a lot of us are already experiencing the cabin fever effect. Then I think about people like that, and who are already kind of isolated in their community and all that because of their age and etc. Just like being from different locations, maybe not having a job, maybe their friends have passed away. So whenever all this stuff blows over, one thing you might want to think about is maybe kind of essentially adopting a elderly person in your area. And what I mean by that, a lot of Facebook groups will have like we have parishes, so we have a parish Facebook page, and they'll post if somebody needs rides or help or things like that. Just kind of reach out to those people, see if they need help. And they're really cool, and you can learn a lot from them. Anyway, that was just kind of a rambling story. So from his porch, I took this photo, and you really can't see much in this photo, unfortunately. I was using my cell phone, but it was kind of sprinkling on us and all that. And like I said, with the whole social distancing thing, I didn't want to go inside his house, shake his hand, things like that. I wanted to be, we wanted to be outside on the porch and whatnot. But after that little sprinkling, that beautiful greens came out in this forest across the road on the other side of the fence. And I kept on just looking over and over again. And eventually I was like, oh man, I got to apologize. I keep on looking over at this. I got to take some pictures. So I had taken some pictures, and I don't think we could really zoom in that much. I don't know how much it'll show up on the camera. But what I had seen was just jumping out at me was these dark trunks. And let's see if we can find some other dark trunks that are happening in here. Maybe that's it. And then the light trunks. So there's a dark trunk here and light trunks. And dark trunk here. And they all were so far away. And with that type of distance, we usually practice kind of putting in one value, maybe 2 or 3 brush strokes, mix some colors together, and let that distance take place. But I kind of really wanted to think about putting an emphasis on that far distance and playing with light trunks and dark trunks. How the underhangs and underneath had that darker aspect to it in tonality. The green here, later on in the evening, the sun kind of cleared up the sky and we had a little bit of shining through here that was nice. And when I was mentioning taking pictures, there was this tree right here that we were discussing. Like, he's like, I don't even know if that tree is alive or dead or not, but it in front of the lush greenery, it had that statement of death and life. So that was an interesting thing that he had pointed out with this scene and the way other people could read paintings or imagery. So story-wise, there's an interesting element here, and we might put that in. But this is something that I really want to focus on, is that background, what was really jumping out at me. And I'm going to wind up having to put this on the side just because of the room and whatnot. I don't know if I'll be able to lean it, and if I cast a shadow. I'll experiment with that later on. So much rambling in this video so far. I might have to do like a link down below and say jump 5-10 minutes ahead to the actual painting process, which we will begin. So I'm going to lay it down here. I'll be able to look down. Stonehenge Aqua, 11 by 15. Quarter sheet. Soak in the paper. I have my basic palette set up. I'm just going to talk about the palette while this stretches. Lemon yellow, raw sienna, burnt sienna, burnt umber, the Venetian red, alizarin. With this one, we can play around with the sky. If we want to do cerulean, we have ultramarine. We'll probably do an ultramarine burnt sienna mix, or ultramarine burnt sienna, or burnt umber for that grayish sky, and then Payne's gray. We have sap green. There's a lot of green in this imagery. I don't usually mix a green. You could take the phthalo blue and mix it in with these earth tones, and that kind of has a dark green tone aspect to it, so we might utilize that. So that's what we have going on. So nothing too out of the ordinary on the palette. We have our hake. In yesterday's video I did a lot of exploration with scraping with razor blades, and there's a few different things I came up with. I've used razor blades in the past in the paintings, but I felt like there were some gestures and strokes that kind of took it to the next level, which was really good. So we'll see if we have places to utilize that. So the sky is quite dreary in this picture. We'll mix. Let's do burnt sienna. I feel like I neglect the burnt sienna mix with ultramarine and usually go for the burnt umber, which I don't know if that's fair to the burnt sienna because it's such a common mix. Might even leave that light right there. Now we got some burnt umber and ultramarine. That should be good enough for the sky. The land itself, I'm going to put in the marks, and I think that we are going to wind up having to do a dry off because we're going to be in the far distance, and I'll talk about that in a moment. Raw sienna. All right. I think. Okay, let's take our ultramarine and Venetian red to mix purple. This is just the bottom of that tree line, just so I could start placing things in. And get that picture drawn. I think I might bring these up as kind of a backdrop for these trees, as if there's another layer behind them. However, that is not the case in the photo. But what I want to do, and an issue that I have in painting with watercolor, we could turn that into a little waterway if we wanted to. Anyway, an issue that I have is that this far background layer will often, I'll gradually make it bigger and bigger, and it just doesn't have any recession if I keep going with that. So let's stop that right there. Let's do a dry off. Since everything is so wet right now, I'm going to have to hold it up quite high and do a slow dry off, so it may take a little while. All right, it's still wet, but I realized I didn't give you the conditions for why I had to do that slow high dry off, because the pools will get pushed around. Okay, that should be good enough. Now, here is the challenge of the variety of greens, and yeah, for the most part, the variety of greens, and making sure I don't just gradually let this thing take over the size. I really want to narrow it in this band. So I'm going to grab some phthalo blue. Let's see how the mixing looks on the camera. Okay, so you can see the mixing right there. So phthalo blue with raw sienna. We'll have a green kind of take place, so you're getting that on the camera. Yeah, it is there. Phthalo blue with the burnt goes to that darker. And then that's our burnt umber. Now, if we feel that it's too, like, and I always use this word, Vicks Vapor Rub menthol-y for this color, we can add more of our earth tones. I believe we could also try to tone it down a little bit with that light red, but that'll neutralize it a little bit more. Okay, so let's see. I'm going to go in, I'm going to put that skyline in. Now, I want it more textured. There we go. And when I said skyline, the top of the tree line, sorry. I'm using different parts of this brush to get a variety of markings and to avoid a repetitious pattern of markings. Let's mix the raw sienna in there. This color may be acceptable for the ground, the grass. I'm going to want a variety in this. I don't want just one set tone, so I'll probably put this in and then do a dry brush over this. Let's get lemon yellow. Put that variety in there. And let's see what dark we can get. This is burnt umber. And phthalo blue. That's that underbrush. It was darker on some of the bases, and then some bases actually went lighter. Back here, I'm going to mix Payne's Gray in just to darken this up a whole bunch. There's actually some dark trees right back in here. Let's put some of that dark in here. Now it's all about pattern and repetition and variety and keeping it interesting. The composition is, and like dead serious, like this composition is a not exciting composition. So we just have a band, we have a sky, we have this. This is a something that you're going to have to make exciting by having all these things, by having a variety in what's being viewed and looking for the bright areas, looking for the dark areas, looking at the patterns that take place with the tree trunks that we put in. That's where the excitement in this painting takes place. This is raw sienna and the phthalo blue. I didn't have enough water there. And you need variety in height as we go from left to right. And that's where I start creeping up higher and higher. So that's what you want to be careful with. Lemon yellow, let's see how big of a concentration we can get. I may eventually need to switch brands on my lemon yellow, just because or maybe try to find a more opaque yellow that will work with my style. And let's dry brush this in here. So we have our variety in the ground. I'll leave the highlights in some spots. Now we'll play around with the rigger and the card. In some spots, and this is a good practice for counter change, light over dark, light over dark. Just look at your dark areas. I'm not using this from the photo verbatim, but I'm using that concept. Over on this side we had light trees over that darker area. Here where we have the light, we'll do a dark, and we could even add dark up in here, so we can go back and forth between the two. So I guess the best way to describe this one would be a exploration of counter change within a tree line. I think that's what we'll title this one. We can take the dark, we can take a variety of dark mixtures too, but now we got to be careful because it's going to wind up bleeding and spreading out. So, and of course it's not going to do that exact thing that I just said to be careful for. Get a variety, try not to be too much of the same type of stroke. You could bring some of these down lower. So last night I went to bed, I had ordered some paper offline, and I used the Stonehenge Aqua, and man, at the moment I knew something was wrong when I was ordering it. I ordered a 10-pack of the Stonehenge, or the Legion, which is the same brand. It was Legion multimedia paper, which it says it can be used for watercolor and whatnot. But I ordered a 10-pack of that, so we're going to do some experiments with that paper, and also do some drawing videos and whatnot. I need to work on my drawing, and I think it'd be fun, and it'd be an interesting change of pace for us. Yeah, the little foliage back there. But yeah, so I was laying in bed, I was thinking about that, and it hit me about the drawing and whatnot. So I was laying in bed just thinking about drawing, which I think is going to be exciting. People have been showing me their results from this. He's a YouTube artist, but I think he has a lot of his full videos on Patreon. I haven't really watched any of his full videos yet. I've just been seeing people's results. And the guy's handle is Smoothie77. And the results that people are getting from his drawing tutorials are phenomenal. It is just out of this world what these people are getting from it. With the drawing is, and I haven't watched the video, so I correct me if I'm wrong. I always think that the drawing and like really detailed pen and ink and things like that, if they're doing graphite and charcoal, is a very, very time consuming thing. Granted, I have all the time in the world right now, but when things eventually get back to normal, would I be able to utilize that drawing skill or have time for it? That's what I'm a little nervous about. But anyway, so people are doing fantastic drawings based off of that guy. So if you're looking for drawing stuff, check him out. I'm probably, like I said, going to be doing maybe pen and ink practice and playing with the fountain pens in some videos. Also, if you guys like this content and would like more of it, I have links down below where I often post the painting that I did for whatever video or tutorial for sale. I do have the Patreon account if you want to join that. There are some Patreon exclusive videos, but it's also there to, you know, if you guys want to send money so I can buy paper and whatnot and supplies. Then there's the Instagram account if you want to check that out and follow me along, which was fun. And if you guys follow along with these paintings, I would love to see results. I'd love to see what you guys wind up with. I think we created an interesting tree line. Pretty happy with the way this experiment came out. I think that I will put that dead old tree up in here, just for compositional interest. So we have rhythm back here and counter change for interest, but like I said, overall it's just kind of a flat thing. So let's dry this off and then we'll put in a tree. Now this one we're going to have a great opportunity for counter change as this tree rises up over these guys. So the way I'm going to approach it, and I just mixed burnt umber, phthalo blue, Payne's gray, just getting it dark. And we're going to bring this guy up right here. He seems to come above the tree line, over the top of the trees, and branch off. We'll have a lot of interesting things coming off of him. As you know, at this point I like to settle this in. This would be a L-shaped composition here and coming across. But I'm going to take this card, and while it's wet, it's great. And that offers us counter change over that darker background. Shaping the brush. I'm going to take the rigger and play throughout with this in a bit. But right now I'm just using kind of just little clumps of the hake just to start trailing things off. And remember, don't neglect the upper portion of this tree. Okay, now it's taking our dark mix and just going to town. We could accentuate the darks where we already painted to get some dimension to these trees. We could take light washes on the blue-gray side. This is a Venetian red, so it's giving us purple with it. For parts that'll extend back. So vary the tone and the warm and the cool here, so we could add different layers and depths. So that's the key word with trees, is the layer and depth. And you know I like having supporting type trees right next to it. Use the tip of the rigger, branches off of branches. I may scrape right there as well. May have to re-wet to help scrape that up, but we'll see. Just darkening that edge to widen them up a little bit. You could add little strokes for different textures in there. Cross over branches that are already there and duck under branches that are already there. Get things to weave. Come out and go around. I had a dream last night where I was painting. I don't know if I mentioned that. And I love those dreams. That dream, there's something else going on. Like I was having a pack. So I was like staying over a friend's house in the dream. Maybe it was in like high school still or something. So I had a pack between painting and the painting. I don't know if it was oil or not, but there was a really pretty cool element. It had like a little earthen bridge somewhere in it, and a horse and a carriage traveling underneath the bridge, and it was just a small little scene within it. And I don't know what prompted that, but it was pretty cool dreaming that. But if you've watched enough, you kind of get an idea of how my mind works and whatnot. There's some branches that come up and then just like hit a dead stop, or this is just So we'll be finished in a moment. It really depends on how long you want to spend doing this, but you'll make sure, you know, even though the tree's dead or barren at this point, that you really capture all that skeletal structure and have all that branch aspect. A little knot right in there. Let's see if we can do a little bit of lifting for counter change. I did use the phthalo blue, which is a staining color, so that might limit the lifting ability. And then we'll do a dry off. It looks like it's helping pull right there. Wetting that. There we go. We're getting a little bit of lightning taking place. We could always do the flared hake to try to catch a little fuzzies. With little twigs at the ends. One last super dark. Then we will be done. You do get a interesting dry brush effect with this. You bring it far enough and let enough paint come out. That might be an interesting thing to mix up our textures. And we have enough up here. I just want to make sure we don't neglect the top. All right, I think we're done. Let's dry it off and see what it looks like. Alright, we should be all dry. Yeah, we feel pretty good. Put this on top, we'll sign it, and I'll show you a view, and I'll photograph it. Hope you all enjoy this video. Yep, like I said, feel free to like, subscribe, all that other fun stuff. And if you follow along, I'd love to see the results. Let's sign it right down here. Let me stand up. About there. Okay. So there you go. There it is. I hope you all enjoyed, and I'll see you all soon.